Before we begin, take a moment to support the channel. If you're interested in real crime stories, unsolved disappearances, and cases that still raise questions today, make sure to subscribe. Don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps keep these stories alive. Now, let's begin.
On the morning of June 4th, 2010, a small elementary school in Portland, Oregon became the center of one of the most baffling child disappearance cases in American history. 7-year-old Kyron Horman walked into Skyline Elementary School with his stepmother, Terry Horman. It was science fair day. The hallways were filled with parents, students, colorful posters, and homemade volcanoes. Kyron proudly showed off his project, a display about tree frogs, smiling as classmates and adults passed by. Nothing about that morning felt unusual. Nothing felt dangerous. But within a few hours, Kyron Horman would be gone. Kyron was a quiet, gentle child. He struggled with vision problems and wore glasses, but he loved school. He loved learning. His teachers described him as polite and well-behaved. He was not a child who wandered off. He was not rebellious. And he was certainly not someone who would simply run away. After the science fair, Terry Horman said she watched Kyron walk down the hallway toward his classroom at approximately 8:45 a.m. That was the last confirmed sighting of Kyron Horman. He never made it to class. When Kyron failed to come home that afternoon, his parents initially believed there had been a simple misunderstanding. Perhaps he had stayed late or gone home with a friend. But as the minutes passed, panic set in. The school had no record of Kyron being marked absent. No teacher recalled seeing him in class. No one remembered seeing him leave. By early evening, police were notified. By nightfall, the search had begun. What made the case immediately alarming was not just that Kyron had vanished, but where he vanished from. An elementary school, in the middle of the morning, surrounded by adults, with no signs of a struggle, no witnesses, no security footage showing him leaving. It was as if Kyron had slipped through the cracks of reality itself. As law enforcement began retracing Kyron's final known moments, attention quickly turned to the last adult known to be with him, his stepmother, Terry Horman. She had dropped Kyron off. She had spoken to other parents. She had taken photos at the science fair, and she had left the school shortly afterward. At first, she was cooperative, calm, helpful, but as the days passed, inconsistencies began to surface, and suspicion slowly crept in. The disappearance of Kyron Horman would soon evolve from a desperate search for a missing child into a deeply divided investigation, one marked by accusations, unanswered questions, and a family torn apart by doubt. And at the center of it all, a 7-year-old boy who walked into school one morning and was never seen again. The morning of June 4th, 2010, began like any other school day at Skyline Elementary School in Portland, Oregon. But it would end as one of the most haunting mornings in modern American true crime. Kyron Horman was 7 years old, quiet, curious, and deeply fascinated by science. That Friday, the school was hosting a science fair, an event Kyron had been excited about for weeks. He had carefully prepared his project, proudly titled Red-Eyed Tree Frogs. Colorful photos, neatly arranged text, a child's sincere effort, full of enthusiasm. At approximately 8:45 a.m., Kyron arrived at the school with his stepmother, Terry Horman. Security cameras captured Kyron walking down the hallway, backpack on, jacket zipped, smiling. This image would become one of the last confirmed sightings of him. Terry later told investigators that she and Kyron walked through the science fair together. They stopped at several projects. Kyron showed her his display. They talked briefly. Then, according to Terry, she watched Kyron head down the hallway toward his classroom. She said he turned the corner, and she never saw him again. At 10 a.m., Kyron Horman was marked absent. No one noticed. Not immediately. Teachers assumed he was on a field trip. Administrators believed he had already been checked in. The system failed quietly and critically. By the time Kyron was officially reported missing that afternoon, hours had already passed. Hours in which a 7-year-old child vanished from inside a school. The realization sent shockwaves through the community. Children do not simply disappear from classrooms. Not without someone seeing something. Not without leaving a trace. And yet, there was nothing. No eyewitness. No confirmed exit. No sound of alarm. Just a school full of people. And one child who never made it to class. It was science fair day. Parents walked through the halls with cameras. Children proudly stood beside poster boards covered in handwritten titles, diagrams, and glittering letters. Teachers guided visitors from classroom to classroom. Everything felt normal, routine, safe. Among the students was 7-year-old Kyron Horman. Kyron had arrived at school that morning with his stepmother, Terry Horman. She had taken photos of him standing next to his science project, a display about tree frogs. Kyron was wearing a black t-shirt with CSI printed across the front, a reference to his favorite TV show. Those photographs would later become the last confirmed images of him. After touring the science fair, Terry said she watched Kyron walk down the hallway toward his classroom. She claimed she saw him turn the corner, heading exactly where he was supposed to go. But Kyron never made it to class. When attendance was taken later that morning, Kyron's name was called. There was no answer. At first, teachers assumed he was still with his parents, lingering at the science fair. That wasn't unusual. But as minutes passed, concern grew. By early afternoon, the school contacted Kyron's parents. That was the moment everything changed. Terry Horman insisted she had dropped Kyron off, that she had seen him walk toward class, that she had left the school shortly after. But there were no witnesses who could confirm seeing Kyron after that moment. No teacher, no student, no staff member. In a school filled with people, Kyron Horman had somehow vanished. The realization sent shockwaves through the community. Search teams were deployed immediately. The wooded areas surrounding the school were combed. Dogs were brought in. Helicopters flew overhead. But there was no sign of Kyron. The last confirmed sighting of him remained frozen in time. A smiling boy standing proudly beside his science project. And from that moment forward, the case turned from a missing child investigation into one of the most perplexing disappearances in modern American history. As the search expanded, investigators began asking difficult questions. How could a child disappear from a school without anyone seeing something? Attention quickly shifted to the adults closest to Kyron. Terry Horman's timeline became a central focus. She claimed that after leaving the school, she ran errands with Kyron's infant half-sister. Surveillance footage confirmed parts of her story, but not all of it. Gaps remained. Witnesses described Terry's behavior as unusual. Some said she seemed distant. Others recalled inconsistencies in her statements. Soon, rumors began to spread. Investigators uncovered allegations that Terry had attempted to hire a hitman to kill Kyron's father. The claim was explosive but unproven. No charges were ever filed. Terry denied everything. No physical evidence connected her to Kyron's disappearance. No DNA. No witnesses. No confession. But suspicion followed her relentlessly. Meanwhile, searches continued across Oregon. Forests, rivers, and abandoned properties were examined. Volunteers worked tirelessly. Hope slowly faded. Years passed. The case grew colder. Kyron's parents became divided, not only by grief, but by blame. One side believed Kyron was taken. The other believed something happened within the school. But no theory could fully explain the silence. A child doesn't simply disappear. And yet, Kyron Horman did. More than a decade has passed since Kyron Horman disappeared. He would be an adult now. But to the world, Kyron remains 7 years old, forever frozen in the photograph taken beside his science project. No remains have ever been found. No arrests have ever been made. No answers have ever been confirmed. The case remains open. Every year, age-progressed images are released. Every year, hope briefly returns. And every year, silence follows. Kyron's disappearance left a permanent scar on his community. It changed how schools handle security, how parents say goodbye in the morning, how quickly normalcy can shatter. Someone knows what happened that day. Someone saw something. Someone remembers something. And until that truth comes to light, Kyron Horman's story remains unfinished. A boy who walked into school, a science project left behind, and a mystery that refuses to end. Kyron Horman disappeared on June 4th, 2010, and his absence is still deeply felt. Years have passed, but the questions remain, and the hope has never faded. This is not just an unsolved case. This is a child who is missed, remembered, and loved. May this story keep Kyron's name alive, and may one day bring the answers his family and the world still wait for. Justice for Kyron, never forgotten.
If you want to keep uncovering the mysteries that linger in the shadows, don't forget to subscribe. Your likes help these cases reach more investigators, and your comments might just be the clue that leads to the truth. Stay curious and stay vigilant.